There's a lot of talk about how movie theaters are dying and streaming is taking over. And there is truth to that, but there is another truth. Movies that go straight to streaming will never be as culturally significant as movies that come out in the theaters. Not now, not 10 years from now, not ever. Culturally significant films are movies that people watch again and again, 5, 10, 20 years later. It's when people quote or reference a movie all the time. It's when you know the movie without actually ever having watched it.
The first time you ever came to me for counsel, for help. I can't remember the last time that you invited me to your house for a cup of coffee.
Culturally significant films are The Godfather, The Wizard of Oz, Jaws, Do the Right Thing, Superbad, The Sixth Sense, Rush Hour. To be clear, there is a difference between an entertaining film, a good film, a critically acclaimed film, and a culturally significant film. For example, Roma is an amazing film. It's a beautiful film. It won Oscars. I personally love Roma, but it is not a culturally significant film. Not in the way that Superbad is or The Godfather. Bird Box is one of the most watched films on Netflix, but it hasn't seeped into our culture like Get Out. The phrase "the sunken place" has entered our vocabulary. Jordan Peele said, "The sunken place means we're marginalized. No matter how hard we scream, the system silences us."
It's like kind of stuck in that sunken place.
But at the moment, it's a sunken place.
Keeping you in the sunken place.
Home Alone gets watched every Christmas. Star Wars literally has its own convention. Forrest Gump gave us lines like,
"Life was like a box of chocolates."
and
Run, Forrest, run!
cultural significance isn't just about the box office. It's about feeling and staying power. Movies like Clerks, Friday, Terrifier, they didn't make a crazy amount of money when they were out in the theaters, but they became huge inside their own subcultures. You might be thinking, why is this even important? What does it matter if we have culturally significant films or not? To some people, movies are just content that you put on so your children or your parents can't hear you doing the deed. But for a lot of people, whether they realize it or not, movies are one of the most important art forms to ever exist. At its best, movies allow us to introspect on our humanity. The Matrix asks, what is real and who gets to decide that?
Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress?
Coming to America asks, what do we owe tradition when it no longer reflects who we are?
Good morning, my neighbors! Hey, fuck you! Yes! Yes! Fuck you too!
Barbie asks, who are you when the role you were designed to play no longer fits?
Off, never be selfish, never fall down, never fail, never show fear, never get out of line. It's too hard, it's too contradictory, and nobody gives you a medal or says thank you. And it turns out, in fact, that not only are you doing everything wrong, but also everything is your fault.
I'm gonna do my best to not sound like Nicole Kidman here, but it's so true. Movies inspire us. They bring us together. They make us laugh. They spark debate. They're reference points. They build community. This is why we need culturally significant films. Not just good films, but films that we remember. Films that future generations can watch and appreciate. Also, the movie industry is a huge business. Films are watched by billions of people worldwide. Even in the 2020s, a single movie can sell 20 to 60 million tickets. Something no other art form can do in that kind of shared window. And the film and television industry employs over 2 million people in the United States alone. That's a major labor sector. Movies don't just entertain us, they give us a shared language, shared stories, shared moments. And when we reduce them to disposable content, it's not that we're just losing art, we're losing culture, jobs, and a shared way of understanding ourselves together. As a movie lover, I have, which sounds really funny, a movie lover sounds really romantic. I would make love to a movie if I could. But as someone who loves movies, I have a love-hate relationship with Netflix. The biggest problem I have with Netflix is that they're not creating memorable films. And it is true that a lot of movies that come out in the theaters aren't very good these days, but Netflix is leading the way in how people consume and watch movies. And they're better at creating memorable television series than they are at creating memorable movies. One of the reasons is that they come back season after season, which allows for a conversation to continue and for you to develop relationships with these characters. Movies that come out on Netflix don't have a chance to really breathe and find an audience in the same way they do in the theaters, because they're bombarding you with content after content after content every single week. Netflix's best movies are mostly forgettable. Even movies like Carry On, Red Notice, Don't Look Up, all got tons of views, but they're not nearly as culturally significant as movies like Sinners, Oppenheimer, Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's because Netflix is a tech company and their biggest competition is social media. This is why they recently introduced podcasts and video games, and why they're about to introduce vertical videos. Ted Sarandos recently said, "So we all compete with them in every dimension, for talent, for ad dollars, for subscription dollars, and for all forms of content. More broadly, we compete for people's attention across an even wider set of options that include streaming, broadcast, cable, gaming, social media, and big tech video platforms. Because of this, their business model is to keep adding content to keep you subscribed. And it works. Netflix is unbelievably successful, but it also means they're creating a lot of films that are forgettable. Traditional studios disclose massive per film marketing campaigns because box office success depends on widespread public awareness. Netflix does not disclose marketing spend on a per film basis. Its reported marketing is platform wide, and that suggests a different priority. Netflix promotes Netflix, not individual films at a theatrical scale. It helps explain why we haven't seen a new generation of directors break through their platform in the ways that we've seen Greta Gerwig, Ari Aster, or Ryan Coogler did in the theatrical system. So as a consumer, it's really hard to determine what is worth watching and what is not, which devalues some of their more prestigious work. Since the early 2000s, there have been less and less culturally significant films due to sequels, remakes, franchises, and late-stage capitalism. But the ones that are culturally significant are the ones that are coming out in the movie theaters. I'm talking about La La Land, The Big Short, A Quiet Place, Project Hail Mary, Parasite, Weapons, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood are all movies that people were buzzing about and that people will watch, reference, and care about for years and years to come. And there's a few reasons why. Cinema feels bigger. Cinema feels communal. Movies were made to be played on the big screen. And when they do, there's an investment by the studios, whether it's dumping tens of millions of dollars into the marketing so it feels like an event, and bringing on filmmakers who are going to craft a unique cinema experience.
So Screen X is a format where you have these massive screens on the side of you that for certain portions of the film, the film really opens up and surrounds you. Another awesome format. And then down here, I want to highlight Dolby Cinema. So the same folks that make Dolby Atmos, they also are doing a Dolby Vision screen, which is a HDR format, which is high dynamic range. Awesome format. Whenever you think about high dynamic range, just think about whiter whites, brighter whites, and darker, deeper blacks. Our film's Many Things is also a horror movie, so those blacks could be really cool. And Dolby Cinema, and it was all captured on film. And film is known for having, it's just incredible dynamic range.
There's a psychological investment of purchasing a ticket, getting off your couch, and getting out the house. Theatrical films exist within a limited window. You either show up for the moment or you miss it. And that pressure turns movies into events rather than background options. Seeing a movie in the theater embeds it into your personal memory. You remember where you were, who you were with, and how the audience reacted, which anchors films to specific moments in your life. something that watching it at home rarely does. Nowadays, when you stream movies at home, you're effectively just watching content. When you go to the movie theaters, you never say, I'm going out to watch some content, or I'm going to the content theater. Although I can see that being a thing, and I pray that a tech bro does not take that idea. When you stream movies at home, you may actually not say, I'm gonna stream some content, but you definitely treat it like content. You're paying $10, $20 a month and you get an infinite amount of films, and you're probably scrolling pop the balloon reels while you're watching. I know what some of y'all are thinking. Movie theaters are dying. Nobody goes to the movies anymore. That is so far from the truth. People are still going to the movies in droves. Hollywood made $8,655,109,053 in the United States in 2025. Granted, this is not 1946 where 90 million people, or 64% of the population, was going to the movies every single week, or in the 2000s when 1.5 billion tickets were sold, but $8,655,109,053 is not no one. Also, IMAX is booming. IMAX reported that it grossed $1.28 billion at the box office in 2025, a record year for the company in terms of box office revenue, up 40% from 2024. IMAX's 2025 was 13% better than the pre-pandemic 2019. I do realize that IMAX cannot save movie theaters, but it is a huge indicator that people still crave and desire a premium cinema experience. It's the mid-level original films that are dying. Let's take a look at ticket sales from 2023, 2024, and 2025, and compare them to 1993, 1994, and 1995. In 2023, the top 10 movies sold 315 million tickets. In 1993, the top 10 movies sold 337 million tickets. In 2023, the top 11 to 100 movies sold 456 million tickets. In 1993, the top 11 to 100 movies sold 742 million tickets. In 2024, the top 10 movies sold 329 million tickets. In 1994, the top 10 movies sold 386 million tickets. In 2024, the top 11 to 100 movies sold 373 million tickets. In 1994, the top 11 to 100 movies sold 787 million tickets. In 2025, the top 10 movies sold 290 million tickets. In 1995, the top 10 movies sold 282 million tickets. In 2025, the top 11 to 100 movies sold 463 million tickets. In 1995, the top 11 to 100 movies sold 820 million tickets. A lot of mid-level movies don't make the average person feel like they need to get off their couch and go to the movie theaters. They're very niche down for very specific audiences. In the mid-90s, you had an abundance of mid-level original films that the masses could appreciate. Movies like Heat, Waiting to Exhale, Pulp Fiction, Dumb and Dumber, Bad Boys, Braveheart, Mrs. Doubtfire, Menace to Society, Poetic Justice, Free Willy. I want to be clear, I don't think all of this is doom and gloom. People have been talking about Hollywood and movie theaters and cinema dying pretty much since the beginning of Hollywood and cinema. From the shift to sound in the 1920s, to television in the 1950s, to the fall of movie palaces and the rise of VHS and DVDs and cable, cinema has survived it all. I actually think that mid-level original films can be culturally significant again, but it won't be because of streaming, it'll be because of movie theaters. Don't get me wrong, I love the experience of watching a movie from the comfort of my home, but it will never be better than the experience of getting out the house, getting together with friends or family or a date, stuffing my face with buttery ass sodium-filled popcorn, and escaping into a cinematic experience. There will always be a market for that. Streaming may be booming now, but movies that come out in theaters will always be more culturally significant.